Okay, PowerPoint up?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so a while ago, Denise Nilsson presented images on or an image, a twirled image. And I thought, well, those are pretty cool. And I started playing around with it. So I have to give credit to Denise for turning me on to this technique. So basically, I will just run through the procedures on how to do the twirl, and then I will show you what I've added into it. What I usually like to do is steal other people's ideas and then put my own twist on it. So this is kind of my twist on the twirl. So pretty straightforward. Start by opening up an image that you'd like to use and make a copy of it. Then if you go to filters, and under filters, there's pixelate and mezzotint. So select mezzotint and go to medium lines, and you'll get this effect on your image. Next step is to go to filter, blur, and select radial blur. Set it to zoom, draft, quality at draft, and amount to 100. By setting the quality to draft, it just speeds up the process. So it just takes a few seconds to complete. So repeat the blur process a second time, and then do it a third time, but then switch your quality to best. And this is what you'll end up, your image will end up looking like this. Set the blending mode on your background copy to lighten once you've duplicated your background copy. And then under filters again, go to distort and twirl and set your angle at 100. This is a good starting point. You can go further than that. I think it goes up to about 900 and some. What that does, it creates more of a corkscrew effect on your twirl. You'll get a tighter twirl, but your edges will be a little more defined. They won't get really blurred out. So do that on your background copy. Then select your background, and then just inverse the number that you started with. So if you started at 100, the background would be set to -100 on your second layer. And that's the technique. So this is what you'll end up with, is this sort of image here. So as pretty and as colorful as these images are, you know, with their patterns and swirls and twirls and colors, I thought that they were lacking something. The images didn't really speak out to me. So I thought it needed to relate to something. And what better thing to relate it with is the original image. So going back to your original image, I select an area that I want to paste back into the twirled image. So here I've used the elliptical tool and just selected the flame on the center candle. And then once it's been selected, I feather the radius. And I've got this set at 250. That's the maximum amount that you can feather the portion that you've selected. The reason being that once you paste that image in to your twirled image, it blends a lot nicer, so you won't get a lot of hard lines. So once you've copied your selection, paste it into your twirled image, you can rotate, resize, and move that portion of the image around to wherever you think it looks best. So here's the final results, your original image, twirled image, and the final image with the portion of the original image pasted onto the twirled image. So pretty straightforward, simple technique, but I think it just adds a little something to an ordinary image. If you're doing a lot of these, you may want to create an action and it'll just run through this script and, you know, probably have a final image within a minute or so. So that's basically it on how to do twirled composite images. Any questions so far?
Yes, I do. What if you don't have Photoshop? Is there like to do the twirl effects?
I am not aware of any other programs that will create this effect.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Byron,
Yes.
are you going to be giving us a kind of a little sheet where we can use just like once this is over, where we can just go into a Photoshop and try something?
A little how-to sheet?
Yeah, like just because although like I really don't know Photoshop well at all.
Okay.
So I wasn't able to follow you along there with the start of what you did.
Okay. Well, there's all sorts of YouTube videos on how to do this technique.
Okay, great.
You know, I mean, when I was starting to do these, I was looking around and there's all sorts of, like I say, YouTube videos on doing it. Some of them vary slightly, but they're all generally follow the same format.
Okay.
I can send you a link to one, Mike, that I learned it from, and it's really easy to follow it and then just to stop it, and then you go and work on your image to that point, and then start it, and then work on your image to that point, and do it that way.
That would be great. Thanks.
Okay, so here are some examples of some of the images that I've done using this technique. I think flowers especially work really well. Here's the original image that I shot last summer. I just blew a bubble and I had a star filter on my lens and placed that bubble right on this flower. Here's the twirl. And then I just rotated that image 90 degrees. And then I had the bubble and the flower as well as this stem masked off and just popped it into here where I thought it fit quite nicely.
Beautiful.
These are the snowbirds from a few years ago. I really like this one because it really gave a sense of motion to the vapor trails.
Mm-hmm.
And this is one of the first ones that I've done, Japanese Gardens Winter Lights Festival. So it kind of gave it the aura of, you know, the Northern Lights,
Yeah.
as well as all the festival lights. So continuing on from here, I thought, you know, hey, these are pretty cool. I like these. What else can I do with them? So I started playing with kaleidoscopes. And I've been playing around with creating kaleidoscope images for the past number of years, but I've been doing it manually, just cutting out a portion of an image, flipping it, rotating it, and then stitching them together. But I was searching around and I found this website called mediplugins.com, and amazingly enough, there's a plugin called Kaleidoscope. So if you go to this website, you can download this filter. Once you download it, you have to unzip it. And it's Kaleidoscope 2-1.8bf. So once you've unzipped it, copy that file into your effects folder in Photoshop. So here is the path that I use, and it goes into the effects folder. Okay, so once you open this filter, this is the interface that it comes up with. Here's a brief description of all the controls, but the main ones are petals. So you can set the number of petals anywhere from 2 to 20. So in this image, I've set it at 5. So you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 petals. These slider controls here adjust where on your original image along the X and Y axes where it takes your viewpoint from. So this one is set at 5 petals with these numbers as your horizontal and vertical. This next image, you've got 15 petals with different numbers in your horizontal and vertical as well as your angle. So here are 5 different images created from the original image. My personal preference is once that they're completed is to crop them into a square. I just think it looks a little better.
Yeah.
And here are some different examples on kaleidoscope images created with that filter plugin. Snowbirds again. And that's it.
Wow, that was great.
Amazing photos.
So I will now just show you a little slideshow that shows the different types of images that these two techniques work with. Is this twirled image
Yeah.
seen?
Yeah.
Yes?
Yeah.
Okay. And that's it.
That was beautiful, Byron.
Thank you.
I'm leading a sheltered life. I had no idea people were up to this kind of stuff. It's like that one behind you. It's really amazing looking.
Yeah, that kaleidoscope filter is a real time waster. Let me tell you, I've spent countless hours. I mean, you can just play with it with one image and just come up with so many different neat looking geometrical configurations, eh?
Yeah, like the snowbirds one it's amazing as well. Like, so yeah, you don't really know, I guess, till you choose something and start playing with it, till you say, wow, this is, this is really exceptional. You know what I mean? Or do you choose something going in thinking you have an idea that it's going to be working for you?
Yeah, I kind of have a idea of what type of images will work and what won't, but you just fiddle around with it and you can always make something happen.
Okay.
Rolf was asking what program I use for the presentation. You use PowerPoint for the actual presentation, right?
PowerPoint for the presentation, but I used ProShow Gold for the slideshow.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I don't know if you can see the comments, but they're just
Yeah, I just turn them on.
okay, good.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
so a lot of fun working on those. I mean, I spent a lot of time during my time in social distancing and lockdown, so I was just playing with a bunch of different techniques.
Nice.
Ian, were you going to ask a question?
Well, just a comment. I don't know if this would be an acceptable end use, but I can just see that as wearable art flying off the shelves, whether it's t-shirts or some of the more feminine ones. Like it just lends itself to that. Maybe it's the old hippie in me that's that, but.
Absolutely amazing photos. Great job.
Thank you. Well, I think Lorelei was saying something that you guys should try it out and submit your images. I'd love to see what other people come up with using these techniques.
Yeah, we're having our indoor field trip or stay-at-home field trip, I guess. So give it a try, and well, half the executives here, so half of you guys know. But so yeah, and then sometimes I think Chris will probably take somewhere between 3 and 5 images again, and create a slideshow with it, I guess.
Okay.
So we've got quite a while to work on it. You'll be able to work on it until the weekend before the meeting. So, and what's good about this one is you can grab old images instead of going out and shooting it and trying that. And if I give you the link to that, to how to do it or whatever, the twirl one, you'll see they talk about changing different settings on there where Byron is saying set this to 100 or whatever, and they'll kind of show you what things you might want to try changing up to get a different effect. But I think you'll find that you usually settle, like sounds like Byron has kind of settled on one kind of setting or whatever. And when I did it, that's kind of what I did too, that you'll find one that works for you. And that's basically how you do them all. Mike.
Yeah, it just depends on the type of image you're working at. If you, like I say, if you set your twirl to a higher value, you get a more of a corkscrew effect, a lot tighter lines.
Okay.
you don't really have the fluidity, I
Right,
guess is the word.
right. For sure. Okay, I guess we're done then. And if anybody has any other questions or comments, then we'll let everybody go to go try it out. Mike, I'll, if you want, I can hang around and put it here, but if anybody would like the link that I come up with, I'll go look for it and I'll send it to Mike. And if anybody else wants it, just drop a note and I'll send it to you.
What
Sure,
was
that,
the website for the kaleidoscope effects?
Pardon me?
Mediplugins.com. MEHDI plugins.com.
You need Photoshop to make that one work?
Yes, that's a Photoshop plugin.
Oh, yeah,
Just to get back to Dana's question
Mm-hmm.
about not having Photoshop. A lot of those images I use, I created in Photoshop CS2, which is an old version of Photoshop, but it is still available to download for free if you do an
Okay.
internet search. It's a fully functional Photoshop program.
Okay, thank you. I will look into that.
Yeah, and the reason that I use that on occasion is that it has a few features that some of the newer versions don't have that I like to use still.
Okay. Yeah, I don't really have a program for my computer at home. And so I'm having a hard time with some of the editing things because I don't have the program yet. And I don't know exactly how much it costs to have those programs per month. Somebody told me it did cost.
yeah. I have, I subscribe to the Lightroom and Photoshop. It's $10 American, so it's always around 13 to 14 bucks. I've never paid more than 15, but it's every month. And I have
Okay.
yet to use the Photoshop side except for a few things, because like a lot of people, I have no idea. I can do a few very minor
Yeah.
things, but
Well, like I said in the past, I like to do my photography on the cheap. So
Yeah.
I found this free Photoshop version that I downloaded. So, and it works quite well for my needs.
mhm.
so then Byron, you don't subscribe to the Photoshop Lightroom package?
No, I don't.
Okay.
No, I'm still using Lightroom 5, I believe.
Okay. No, that's interesting, because I felt that I just didn't have an option anymore at a certain point where I can't remember what it was, but my images just weren't loading anymore into Lightroom.
Oh, really?
So I ended up just biting the bullet and going with it. And yeah, sometimes it feels like I'm not really getting my my money's worth out of it, because I'm more using it just to kind of store and categorize images,
Right.
you know, which actually I had you wouldn't know this, but some of you might know. I know it was, I was telling Gord about it. I had an epiphany. You actually get to a certain amount of keywords that it just won't take anymore. And so I was really regretful that I had wasted what I called a lot of them, you know, so like only 4 images out of 50,000 have that keyword on them. And then I just figured out only last week that I can move those 2 or 3. I have lots that have 1 or 2 images. I can move them into other keywords that they could go with. And then I can just rename that keyword that had one. So it really made me excited, because in the future, say you go to a different country, it's sure nice to be able to put the keyword of that different country on rather than not being accepted. So it's got limitations, even though, and I've said to Lightroom, they often send you something, you know, do you have any kind of feedback you could give us that, you know, we could make the program better? And I said, every time, of course, I send the same thing. Yeah. Why not have unlimited keywords? I don't see why they have to have it limited, but of course they never act on anything like that. They just,
Right.
they just collect their fees and move on.
Yeah.
Anyhow.
Well,
That was really good. Sorry, that was really good though. Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks, Byron.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thanks, everybody. And maybe see you next week, but for sure.
Thank you for putting it on.
You're welcome. And
Okay.
thanks, Aaron. Thanks for all your work on that. That was really good.
Okay, thanks.